The Australian Institute of Architects must be an organisation for all our members, both women and men. What we need is cultural change. We don't need any more talking, we need action. So through the Gender Equity Task Force, what we've done is we've adopted Elizabeth Broderick's Male Champions of Change program. So through the Architects MCC program, we've asked 8 CEOs and directors to take on 10 initiatives that will fundamentally address gender equality within their workplace. And we think that it'll not only affect their workplace, but it'll affect the profession and it'll go beyond. This is their journey so far.
So being involved in the program, being a more formal program, I think firstly starts a dialogue within the whole practice and probably more importantly at the partnership level. Creating the dialogue, creating the awareness along with the action items will really lead to a cultural shift.
For our practice, it gives us a structure to work with. It actually raises the female leadership within our practice. It actually changes our design values, changes the way we work together, changes the way we actually function with the rest of the community in New South Wales, and also becomes more of a reality.
Well, Champions of Change is a journey for the Institute and indeed for the profession broadly. It's a really critically important issue that all of us collectively need to confront and deal with. I think we need to see equity of participation, not only amongst graduates, but also amongst senior practitioners and partners in practice. We have 50% of women graduating from architecture. We need to see 50% of women as partners in large practices and small practices. So there's participation that has equity all the way through the career cycle.
The Champions of Change program for me is the start of the change in our mentality and culture. It opens conversations where work-life balance is not only acceptable, but it's also important and it makes it the norm.
As a young designer in Crown, and because of this program, I've seen how women in different stages of their life in the office have had opportunities and have been able to grow. Therefore, as a young female, I feel that this is very promising and I'm really happy to be part of this change.
I have a real interest in this social shift in workplace culture that respects and values difference. I've really enjoyed advocating and finding opportunities for others. So all in all, it's given me a confidence to speak my opinions and been a very good opportunity for me.
The Champions Change program will have a tremendously positive impact on the profession. I think it will be a much more interesting, open profession, allowing people to come from all different places, all kinds of walks of life. So the profession can only benefit from a program like Champions of Change.
I feel that I've really benefited from being part of the Champions of Change program. It's made me realise that there are structural changes that need to be made in order to promote flexibility within a broader context.
I'm hoping the Champion of Change program will fundamentally change not only the architecture profession and how we work, but I'd like to see it change all professions so that we are looking at a social change that will be adopted across the whole of Australia, if not the world.
The Champions of Change program is really aligned with some of the good things that we're doing here at Hassell. One of the benefits is that we are collaborating with other design firms to develop best practice that will impact the industry and make a positive change.
The Champions of Change program is an important initiative within the industry. It allows us to set up a great framework for our next generation and our future leaders.
If we weren't really focusing on equity and fairness and reasonableness at work, we were not doing the best job we could for our people, and our people were certainly not going to be doing the best job they could for us. From a personal point of view, I just think it's a moral imperative to treat people fairly and openly and equitably, irrespective of gender or any other factor. I just think a prejudicial view about people isn't something which will make the design industry flourish.
As an implementation leader, the Champions of Change program for me means the chance to make real change in the industry. And that's because we're doing it with the leaders and not just alone. By treating it as an issue that affects everybody and not just women, I think we have a greater opportunity to make change, and that's why it's really exciting to be a part of.
Being part of the Champions of Change program as an implementation leader means that I can shift my focus from being an observer to being part of a solution and being able to influence the way the industry is going.
In lots of ways we might have been ignorant of some of the challenges that people faced and some of the obstacles that people felt because we haven't had to deal with them. So what was really refreshing is understanding that we do have a problem and that we are addressing it now as best we can.
So the best places to work are typically those that have a representation of the wider community. If we can bring a mix of people, races, genders into the workplace, we will not only get better design outcomes, but we will have nicer places to work, which is better for the industry as a whole.
The reason we engaged in Champions Change was because we felt that the business outcomes would be the most important thing, but actually the whole process has taught us that it's more about a range of other things to do with self-learning, improving as individuals, and the cultural aspects of it, which are really important. And so the outcomes are about us improving as a business, but also us improving as individuals. There's no question about the positive outcomes that we're trying to achieve. It's about reflecting them, representing them as an individual and as an organisation.
Architecture is a challenging industry to be in. As a female, it's even more challenging to be in a male-dominated industry. As a mother, there's a whole other level of challenges that are included. I need people to understand that those challenges exist, come up with ideas of how we're going to deal with it, and appreciate that my contribution as a female, bringing that balance and how that can actually be a positive for our industry and something that's over the long run sustainable to get 50-50 participation in architecture.
I need to ensure that we actively understand what our biases are, conscious or unconscious, that we enact change within our business to ensure that then we don't end up in an unfair environment. So it's been a really amazing opportunity to take that time to learn a little bit about our own business and to start to think about actions that we can take to ensure that there is change long term within our business to achieve a much better level of diversity and equality.
So what I love about the Champions of Change is it goes straight to the structural barriers that are in place for gender equity and asks the leaders in our practices, particularly the male leaders of practices, to advocate for gender change. And it provides a process and a structure to teach these leaders to do that. And so over the course of 1 year, they've addressed their own biases and they've listened to women in their practices and men in their practices, and they are aware of what the issue is and have a strategy to move forward. And we'll see real changes for the practices that are involved in the Champions of Change.